Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a beautiful evening, a lovely Wednesday evening, and welcome to Looking Deeper. Hey, Sandy, what you got going on in the kitchen? We're hearing you rustling around in the cupboards and
I'm sorry.
pouring water. And what's going on there?
I have a bellyache. I'm getting myself a good old-fashioned Alka-Seltzer. Whatever's going to go on, I'm going to start belching soon.
A slice of real life here on Looking
A
Deeper.
slice of life. So I had to turn the little fan on over the wood-burning stove, and my dog is here, and I'm plugging in the phone. I just finished my women's group and literally said goodbye to them and called you, and so it's like I'd be lucky I didn't go to the bathroom and hear that. So I thought, oh no, they'll hear it. Sorry. So I was decent.
Funny.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, good evening, Donna King and Lady Hawk. Good to have you in the chat room. For those of you that are listening, wherever you happen to be around Grandmother Earth tonight, the chat room is open. Donna is already in the chat. Lady Hawk is already in the chat. Sandy's in New Hampshire around the fire with an Alka-Seltzer for her tum, and I'm here in the Enchanted Forest with Todd and Dominic and Gabriel, and it's a beautiful evening. So Sandy, tonight we thought that we would talk about, going into the stillness.
Oh boy. Yeah, baby. Yes, we are. And what stillness we have and what it takes to even consider being still and becoming friends with it, And I really think we need to address how it is an unfamiliar dynamic in this generation. Mm-hmm. And it's important for us to rediscover and become friends with without thinking we've lost or failed or don't belong or have somehow lost our identity. This is a great time to find our identity.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I would agree with that. And a lot of people are home. They're home with family members. They're home with their four-legged family members. They're home with the beauty of themselves. And there's a lot of time right now for stillness, and for some that really can be a challenge to become still. And sometimes even for those of us that are okay with being still, sometimes the challenge can be navigating through that stillness, because a lot of things happen in the stillness. A lot of things crop up. We go places in the stillness, in our heart and in our minds. And sometimes the stillness brings to us things for deeper reflection. How has the stillness affected you in these last couple of weeks, Sandy?
Well, first and foremost, stillness and I are a great friend. And I was even saying to Bobby, for everybody who doesn't know, my husband, that today I was walking through the house and I said, I'm really good with being isolated. And my mother told me way back when I was a kid that I was the only one out of the family that could be by herself for long periods of time. And it was something she observed of me. I didn't know I was doing, but I knew I was doing it. And also for the past 40 years, I work from home. So I'm used to being here, wherever I am. People come to me. I've lived in the middle of nowhere. I've lived out in the woods. I've lived on dirt roads. So there's something that hovers close to, the goosebumps are only goosebumps. Here we go, Lady Hawk. And there's that place where right now, the stillness feels like, even for somebody being intuitive, my intuition is honing itself to be more attentive, more receptive. In the stillness, I'm meeting Bobby for the first time in the fact that neither one of us are leaving. Even there would always be somebody left the house, or he would go to work, or da-da-da. So we're still here in the stillness. It's a whole new introduction. The animals are very aware that we're here. The dog is like, I mean, we have a brand new dog. She's been with us for less than a year. And I'm sure you're seeing it with your kids. They're like, whoa, we're really on the bed more, or we're in the house more, or we want to be with you. And the being with the self is really a very profound dynamic, to be okay with who I am and share that with where I am. And that's what's happening to me. I'm hearing the voice, I'm listening to the voice, I'm sharing the voice, and I have a voice to speak for it and with it, and I'm listening to myself and using my own voice. So it's a multi-dimensional experience. And I'm also looking outside, feeling that there's less vibration outside from us disturbing it, and feeling nature. I mean, that's a fascinating picture that I just had in my brain, oh, that's right. If there's traffic, there's a disturbance in the force. If there are people out there moving and there's a vibration and there's a frequency, there's a quiver that subliminally I would be picking up that I'm not getting.
Mm-hmm.
The vibration isn't out there.
Mm-hmm.
How are you experiencing it?
Well, Todd and I both work from home, so it's kind of status quo here in our home.
Yeah.
We just keep on keeping on. And as we remind each other, we're very blessed because we work really well together from home.
Right.
For some people, that's a brand new experience to be in the house with their partner, working from home. But what we have noticed is the forest, the enchanted forest here.
Yes.
And we've, of course, been spending more time out in the forest and clearing up brush and taking down some trees that needed to be taken down. But the forest is more alive than ever. I mean, you live there at the base of the mountains. It's breathtaking where you are. We're here in the forest. And the one thing that we've noticed is how loud the birds are.
Exactly.
And we had a visit from Raven, a raven. We don't typically get ravens here. And we've been visited by Raven. So we've really been watching very closely the pattern of the animals that are showing up and the vibrancy with which they are showing up. It's really something else. And the air feels so clear. It feels so clean. And it feels to me like our little feathered friends out there and our fox friends and our turkey friends and our deer friends, they feel to me, and I'll ask Todd to weigh in here, it feels to me like they're all taking a deep breath and it feels good to them what's going on. Todd is saying, mm-hmm.
I heard that back there. Hey, baby, how you doing?
Hey there.
Hey, Marianne, it's good to have you in the chat as well. Lily is in the chat.
Lily, este hombre amigo.
And Lady Hawk is saying she saw a bobcat yesterday, grasshopper and spider. So things are coming out. Life is coming out.
Yes.
And sometimes in the stillness, that's when we really can take notice of life, even in death.
Well, I was talking to my sister-in-law, Susie, and she said the same thing down in Connecticut where she lives. And she lives on a street that the house is literally 25 feet from the next house. And, if that, and, on a major city with roads all around her, a hub. And she said, it's so quiet. They're hearing noises that are shocking them. What's that? What's that? Nature is responding. I also want to validate, that shimmer that's not out there. What's everybody doing with the unpolluted air of the noise and the fumes? The earth is starting to clean itself up.
Mm-hmm.
Mother Earth said, if you don't stop, I'll stop you.
Well, I saw something this evening that the ozone layer is starting to repair itself. I haven't fact-checked that yet, but it seemed as though it was coming from a good source. But
Yep.
So those are things to look into.
Absolutely.
And, in the stillness, even in the times that put us in stillness, it isn't always a pandemic that places us in stillness. There are all sorts of things that come along in life that put us on pause, as you say. And having a look around, and what's around us becomes alive. And sometimes what comes alive are memories, experiences that maybe we still need to sort through. Relationships come alive, some wither in times of stillness. But isn't it fascinating, Sandy, what comes alive when we're asked or made to be still?
Absolutely. There's the refreshing awareness that we exist deeper than we realize. And the stillness brings us to the absolute brink of where we avoid almost touching ourselves, feeling ourselves, trusting ourselves, and knowing ourselves, because we are so externally stimulated.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to, like with you, what you said the other night, we have this wonderful new beast in our house, and her name is Ralph. And she is a bloodhound that is just about get to be a year old. She's pressing 90 pounds.
Wow.
So this is a beast, and
wow.
She's spectacular. The other night, she jumped up and for the first time growled and territorialized. And I mean, she was serious to the point I looked at Bobby and he looked at me and I said, that girl's serious. And we got up and went to see what she was reacting to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was reacting to the coyotes in the backyard that were so pristinely clear that and they've been there before, and I've been with her when, don't you hear them? They're dogs. I mean, whatever the vibration is that desensitizes us is being eliminated.
That's a great way to put it.
Thank you.
And Todd is saying, that's a great way to put that.
Yeah.
The busyness of our life does desensitize us to the nuances.
Yes.
And even those of us that feel like we're pretty in tune with the nuances, all of a sudden, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, there's something teen happening in teen.
Yeah.
And so to know that even the dog, the animals, when I look outside to see where the ears are pointing on any of our animals, they're astute.
Mm-hmm.
And something is quivered in, we can hear when the leaves rustle, rather than just be, again, desensitized from, how do we not know what's going on around us?
Right.
How do we not know what's going on in us?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't know what's going on around us, and we don't know what's going on within us. And in this stillness, we are finding out, and we're all having growing pains or disassociation pains.
Mm-hmm.
And what I said to, again, with myself and Bobby is, everybody in the world is about to hit recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be recovering from being addicted to stimulation.
Ooh.
I hear that guy of yours.
Yep. Well, he's a man who's in the IT industry, and so he's used to a lot of particularly electronic stimulation.
Exactly.
All the time.
Exactly.
Cousin Donna is, she's there in the Carolinas, and she's saying she loves bloodhounds. They're very special animals.
We got ourselves a special one, Donna. Oh my God. She's my karmic dog, because I know I've been down south and she's been my dog.
I'm really looking forward to the day that you get to meet Donna in person.
Oh my God. Well, after all this, we're going to need a celebration.
Absolutely. And Lily is saying she agrees with Susie that Mother Earth is enjoying a symphony right now. And my sister Del Marie just entered into the chat room.
Hi, Del.
Good evening, Chue. It's good to have you here. You know, there are some problems with the stillness for some, and I don't know about you, but in my practice and in my friendships, there have been a lot of people reaching out to me at all times, frankly, saying, you know, something is cropping up here in the stillness and it's making me emotional.
Duh. And I don't hear that disrespectfully.
Yeah. Well, because for some people, hey, Tara Rietberg, for some people, you know, when things crop up into and leak their way or leach their way into the realm of emotion, and maybe we don't have anyone there to help us with that emotion. Maybe we've never felt that emotion. And sitting down and discerning with ourselves, you know, whether it's a stroll down memory lane or what have you, you know, how do we deal with that? You know, in the past week, it was interesting. My cousin Vicky, who I adore, helped me a year ago fill out the paperwork to receive my daddy, Billy King, his war medals, his military medals. And in the last few days, they arrived from the government.
The picture on Facebook is breathtaking.
Yeah. And on Instagram, yeah. So
we have Instagram, okay.
These last few days, I've been placing all of his medals meticulously because there is a methodology to placing those medals inside a shadow box. And looking at them, and I said to Todd, just holding the medals is one thing, but flipping the medal over and seeing my father's name engraved in them.
Wow.
And pausing with each and every one of them, holding them. And although I never met him in person in this lifetime, connecting with his spirit in the stillness to say, okay, Daddy, I gotcha. I've got you. You're here. And Todd and I, you know, found a beautiful place to display his medals and his patches, but not just putting them in the case and saying, gee, that looks really nice, but sitting there for a moment with each of them, and some very long moments. And the other night, actually, I found myself, I couldn't sleep, and me and Dominic and Gabriel at like 1 o'clock in the morning, we were sitting next to the doors, slider doors going out to the upper lanai, just staring at the stars and conversing. I was conversing with him.
There you go. So let me backtrack here because I'm me. About the emotion, feeling the emotion, in stillness, everything that we have disassociated from or developed as a pattern or a defense system mechanism to protect ourselves from feeling.
Yes.
In the stillness, everybody, please hear this, it does break away.
Yes.
And therefore, our bodies hold truth. Our emotions hold truth better than our minds do. Because our minds can tell us stories, our minds can disassociate or say, I don't want to. But your right brain, not your mind, your right brain will be mindful to coming into that place exactly where you're going with your father, Dana. And that is into the place of creation and love and faith and connection, whatever that all is. And as you're talking, what rips my heart open is your father taking you on an energetic, beautiful walk through each episode that would have achieved those medals.
Absolutely. You are 1,000% correct.
I see it as plain as day.
Yes. Yes.
And therefore, you're not missing out on his life at all.
Right. Right.
I mean, my goosebumps are on my goosebumps. The download is there. And to know, I mean, literally, my hair on my legs are standing up because I haven't shaved in a while. So in this beautiful stillness, there's an activity that you will not be allowed to be denied.
Exactly. Isn't that magnificent?
It's breathtaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's movement in the stillness that if we didn't have it, we would not be able to experience the bliss of.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's grace. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. God love.
Yeah. So, and here we are. And, I think this stillness, this pause, there's another amazing thing that I've observed with people. And I've been saying that this has been going on for quite some time is, a redefining of family.
Yes.
A redefining of family. That we have our family of origin and blood and bone. And in that, the bringing in of others that are family. And in times of stillness, sometimes we find ourselves drawn to those members of our family that, how do I want to say this, that are part of our journey, part of our soul. And, they say when the rubber meets the road, it's interesting to see who's there when the rubber is meeting the road, right? And Del Marie and I had a wonderful conversation, Chue, maybe you'll remember this, at Guy's funeral last autumn. And we were talking about when we knew what it was and the exact time when we knew that we were really family. Because family is defined typically by acts of love or compassion or strength and courage. And defining moments and defining people as family and what defines that. And I think that right now people are really having a look at family in the
Absolutely.
stillness.
Absolutely. And I agree with you to the maximum degree of my soul has family, my flesh has family, my heart has family. And even within the women's group that I just finished with, at the end, it was being very clear that this connection is eternal. No matter, whatever the devotion is, it's eternal. We'll wave through this. I said in a meditation the other day that I put out online, you're going to find out who you're living with maybe for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're really going to be with them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that beauty of knowing that, like you say, rubber to the road, there's grit with family. There's a certain friction that is necessary in order for it to be remembered, reminded, and connected.
Mm-hmm.
And that friction does have that energy of, there it is. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it is amazing what falls away so that you can remember or feel, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an honesty that we all have to be brought back to. And to find out who's not.
Well, I was going to say, and sometimes we can find out very quickly who it is that we can do without.
Exactly.
Because we've been doing without, only we've been denying that we've been doing without.
Or you didn't know you could do without, and you're finding out.
Yes.
Yes.
Why do you think it's so hard, Sand, for so many people to get quiet? You and I both know people, well, we all know people who they can't even stop talking for 5 minutes. They can't even go into the quiet of not using their voice or not being stimulated constantly. Why is that so difficult for some?
First and foremost, it's scary. It's scary to be alone, and I say this with respect. I want everybody to hear that, my work with people in the psychic realm, in the spiritual world, is about the emotion, is about the soul, and the way that we represent who we are, what's happened to us in this life, other lifetimes, all that stuff. And the current thread through all of that, the consistent thread, is the emotional, intuitive body. The emotional history that is in our soul, the emotional history that's in our flesh, the emotional history that is in seeing. I mean, when I looked in your eyes for the first time, it was like, damn, bitch, there you are.
In your robe.
And I looked the other way, and it was like, well, Egypt was on my right, and you were on my left. I mean,
I remember that.
Absolutely. We were in the car. And to know that when we're in the stillness, we have to understand we don't know all the time that we exist. And so the chatter is making something look like there's an existence. I'm this. Maybe that. There's a fretting. If there's stimulation, that means I'm doing something to negate something because I don't know how to become familiar to the feeling inside. What happens if I feel and it's too much?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if I feel and I don't know what to do with it? We have become overwhelmingly distracted to the point where we are taken out of the ability to feel and be comfortable with our feelings. And you were beautiful in the, we're going to start feeling things. Things will start talking to us. Please know that is normal. You're not going crazy. Some of your craziness is actually leaving so that you will become sane.
Oh, I like that. Some of your craziness is leaving so that you can become sane.
That's right.
I love that, Sandy.
Well, thank you, Dana. And I say that with all the pressure that Mother Earth is pressing up against us, with nobody's paying attention, I will put, you're in lockdown. Back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
I will not die for you. Don't die. Don't kill yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And too much stimulation. I mean, think about what's happening with, the bars are closing down. You can't go out. You can't do this. You can't do that. There's so many things that are stopping where we go out to assume we have an identity, or we can't go home because we can't face our identity. There's my belching. Okay, God bless. Oh my God, we're working out. People are frightened if they have an identity. What is it? And if they don't have an identity, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
In the stillness, you are left to your own experience of reality. And we need to get back to that. Mm-hmm. What is the experience really of reality? It is so beautiful that the enchanted forest is singing to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's reality.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. This weekend, Todd and I had our chanupas out, our pipes out in the enchanted forest, because every spring I clean up around the ceremonial grounds, the inipi, and I take down the old prayer flags, and fresh ones go up, and everything is made pristine, and the old is burned in a ceremonial way. And we were smoking our pipes, our chanupas, and sending up peaceful prayers and healing prayers. And it was, for me, the way that the wind responded, the winds of change. And I could hear, Jefferson's Starship, Grace Slick, singing The Winds of Change.
Wow.
Yeah, up through the sands of time. Up through the sands of time. And for many people, this is also the time of the 8th fire prophecy of the Anishinaabe. These times were prophesied by some of our indigenous elders around the world, that we would come to a fork in the road. And in order, I believe, to make a really good decision when we come to forks in the road in our lives, it's really good to become quiet and still. And one of the things that I've noticed in the stillness of everybody, because the weave, as Amantha would say, the weave is still right now. The weave around Grandmother Earth is very still.
Right.
Which allows us a closer connection to spirit.
Right.
To our ancestors.
Right.
And my dreams have been incredibly alive.
Mm-hmm.
And very poignant with me in saying enough is enough about this. Enough is enough about that.
Oh my God, Dana, I am waking myself up by hearing myself say, no, no,
yeah. Yes.
no.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes, it is. In the chat room, I asked Del Marie, as an elder, what would she share with, the people that are listening right now. She delivered some really beautiful messages to me a couple of weeks ago. And as I was getting ready to have eagle feathers tattooed on my back, but she would say that here's what she wrote. I would say that we have to look at what the lesson is, the laws of the universe, to be more conscious of your environment and finding your true purpose and contribution to life here.
Yes.
I would agree with that.
Absolutely. Well spoken.
Yeah. Lena
Wisdom is wisdom, and truth is truth.
Yes. She's also having lots of dreams. Here's a great question from our dear friend down in the Lone Star State of Texas. How can one deal with the excitement for the change? Because this is an exciting time.
Dance, girl.
Yeah, change is here, all y'all. It's here. And so for some people, they're bursting at the seams with, here it is.
Yes. And so, this is prophecy. This is a prophetic time. This is the end of time, the beginning of time. This is the best of times and the worst of times. This is the end of the Piscean, the beginning, really the active beginning of the Aquarian. This is, Nostradamus, where the red caps will, back in the 60s, there was this whole thing about the red caps. And at that particular time, was that China? Is it Russia? Well, the red caps are the Americans, for God's sakes. That's what's running around them. But the red caps, that there would be something. What's going on with Jerusalem? So this has not been a destination that we're falling into with surprise.
Right.
We have been told this is coming, and we weren't paying enough attention. Therefore, we are surprised. Somebody knew way back when today was coming. And so this is a destiny that we've been brought to. This is a destination we're at. I believe that everybody's faith or belief system has somehow formulated an idea of this moment and talks about it. And the celebration is, for me, I'm grateful I'm here at such an incredible time that does celebrate what needed to change is changing with or without us. It's changing. And we could fight it or not fight it, but we're in the change. We're on the boat. The flood is here. The winds are blowing. And we can use anything that we want in order to symbolize this. But the beauty of the stillness is, for me, we're given an opportunity to rethink, not necessarily only panic. When there's stillness, you don't have to panic. There's a place to come to rather than only be out there and be agitated.
Right.
There's choice here.
Absolutely. And one of the things that people will ask is, ask me anyway, is, so how do we stay strong? And Todd, bless him, this past week, I guess it was Monday, I created boxes for my elder sisters, Della and Delmarie and Barbara, boxes of the pejutas, the medicines, because they're my elder sisters, and they walk that traditional life. They walk that good red road, and the teaching of Mitakoye Oyasi. And so for them, I boxed up some beautifully ground cedar and some sage and some sweetgrass that's been diced up so it burns more easily, and some white willow bark, some conchacha that I made. Wonderful Claudia taught me how to make white willow bark for the pipe. And boxing up all of those medicines for them to keep them strong, because right now I believe that our elders, those that have lived through different times, and can say to us, I lived through that,
Right.
and I'm still here.
Exactly.
I think it's so important to keep our elders strong. And so for me, making those boxes with love, and Todd shipped them out on Monday to all of his sister-in-laws, because we need to keep them strong, in the understanding, as you are saying, there are generations of people and there are spiritual generations. And right now we are going through and into the 8th fire, or the 8th spiritual generation, which is the return of,
Exactly.
I am related to every living thing, seen and unseen. And I think that's breathtaking to me.
Yeah, and that is the end of the Piscean age, where it's the only one, the singular point, that there can only be one way. This brings us back to the group consciousness. This brings us back to we belong together. This brings us back to that place where if we don't care for each other, we're excluded from something that our hearts are aching for, and that is to belong. How many people have you worked with that have told you point blank, I don't know if I belong here?
All the time.
I don't know where I belong.
All the time.
I feel like I don't belong. I've been in the business for 40-something years, and for 40-something years, that's one of the first things. It's like, well, I don't belong. And it's like, it's like, you don't belong where? It's do we belong to ourselves? Stillness is about even coming into ourselves to see that I belong to this body. That the universe didn't make a mistake by getting me into this body. My body didn't make a mistake to come to this planet, to be born at this family. And that in the stillness, I get to see who I am through all this, rather than only what happened to me because I am all this. It's a really beautiful moment for clarity. And you're right, to take care of the babies and the elders are the same job.
Right. And those taking care of them, every day, I'm typically in contact with David Sturkin, our good friend Cad, every day. He either sends me a text message or I send him one. And lately, taking great good care, to reach out to those that during our stillness are not afforded an opportunity to remain still. Cousin Donna, who's in the chat room, she's a flight attendant for American Airlines.
Oh my God, God bless you.
And Cad, he's a pediatric nurse practitioner at the Children's Hospital. Cousin Danielle is the head of nursing at her VA hospital.
For being there. Yeah.
Right, Dane.
You're on the front lines.
That's right. Dane works at the newspaper. He's the one that keeps those presses running. And so he's out there every day. And some people right now are not afforded a whole lot of time to get still. The stillness will come for them after.
Exactly, after the wave.
And so what do you say to somebody who isn't afforded that right now, but gets the pause afterward to not only work through what the rest of us get to be with right now, but everything that they've witnessed, and truck drivers, people working in the groceries, the pharmacists, life continues, and they're in the panic, they're in the fear. You look at Del Marie works at Walmart. They get a whole lot more to process that when this is done. What do you say to them, Sandy?
Thank you, first and foremost. And to know that, I say this from that place in my heart that has that emotion of what you are doing for the rest of the world is so incredibly unselfish, even if you're burdened. And therefore, there is something inside you that is stronger or chosen to do this, that purpose that you're given. And you are in an isolation in some way because you're in a stream of consciousness that is knowing that you're taking care of something that doesn't know how to take care of itself. And you are in that power consciousness that's connected to that. So I thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you lay down to sleep, may what you have faith in really be what you lay down on, not just a bed that there it is, I'm exhausted, but to allow the arms of what loves you for doing what you do and that you're equipped to do it, embrace you so that you sleep deep and that you are kept safe in the stillness of when you go to lay down.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said.
Because, well, I thank you. And again, I thank you in that way that you're not letting something down that's being told you can't exist. You're giving us that existence, that there is food, that there is medicine, that there's a place to come to when we truly, truly need it, rather than just preoccupy ourselves with it.
Yeah, right. And, you know, one of the greatest things I think about my husband, Todd, who works in the IT industry, and the web of information technology is what's keeping us together right now.
You betcha.
And they're
We're
part
living
of
in the future.
Absolutely.
We're living in the future right now. We are in the future right now.
You got it. And they are the new weavers.
That's right.
They are the new weavers. And, you know, Todd is as busy as ever, keeping the information coming and going and creating places for, you know, customer service, even for people to land that can get answers right now in times of fear and panic. So there are so many people out there doing their work, but I think that all of us that are here and called to shine our light, because we all got one of those.
Absolutely.
For the average person who's not out there right now hustling, they're not, you know, Lily, our beautiful Lily, my little sister Lily, she's still working. She works for the federal government. She's still out there doing what she needs to do. And you and I are doing what we need to do in the realms of spirit. But everybody now, the one common denominator that we can utilize for the benefit of one another, and that means everybody around Grandmother Earth, is our own soul light, our ancestral wisdom.
Exactly.
And let's talk about that.
Okay.
How do you do that?
Well, first and foremost, to know that it exists, that it's not woo-woo. To know that the soul light is that place of, oh, gee, I thought I was going to change a job. Well, now I don't have a job, so I can change my job. Well, what is my job? Or who do I want to be? Or, you know, where's my creativity? You know, how many people have bitched and moaned about, oh, I never get a chance. Well, now we have the chance.
Mm-hmm.
We have the chance to kind of pare down and regroup and rethink. I am so clear that we are living in the future so fast. We have been thrown into the future at some rate that says we have to rethink how we're going to talk to each other, how we get to see each other, and also how to minimize the drama that we have between each other. What is petty is finding reality really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Or even realizing I don't want to listen to certain people anymore. I don't have to.
Uh-huh.
I get to choose what I really want to listen to.
Uh-huh.
Anybody that's binging TV right now, take a look at what you're looking at. So many messages are coming through divine intervention with the things that you're saying. I'm watching some things with Bobby, and I look at him and do you realize they just talked to us?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's amazing what this time of inspiration is going to pare us down to, and highlight that light, polish the light. And yes, I need to be more brave in talking here, in saying there is mass confusion. And in mass confusion, there is an opportunity to eliminate what has been confusing us. And in that, time does stretch into the difference. So it's also surrendering to, this is something we can't fight with, but within the not surrender, give up, in the surrender, be with, something activates our intelligence. Something activates our heart. Something activates and recreates so that intelligence survives and finds a way. This is not the first time our souls have gone through this. You know, I know that we have lived through many plagues, many, I know I've gone down in an earthquake. I know I've watched a volcano and go, oh, here comes the smoke. I know, my soul knows that it's gone through creation and destruction. I know it because I know that. Mm-hmm. So this isn't the first time we've been through this. So how do we embrace that the change is finally here, and therefore we are demanding of ourselves to be inspired? Mm-hmm. And we're being demanded of to be inspirational.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we can all do it. Yes. Tara, our good friend Tara Rietberg, is in the chat room. Yeah. Love Tara. She's saying, I'm trying not to let thoughts of fear infect my mind when I watch the news. I'm sending thoughts of peace to the population on a regular basis. That's beautiful.
That is gorgeous. That is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely gorgeous. And anybody that's overwatching the news, be aware that maybe you want to not watch it so much. Pick up something wonderful, inspirational to read. Pick up, change the channel and watch a Hallmark movie, because the news is confusing at the moment. Or know that the news will find you. Tap into it, but don't saturate. Mm-hmm. And there's this beautiful place where, what is your mind thinking about when you do get still?
Yeah.
How do you start? Oh my God, my mind was still, and look at it, it's thinking. Mm-hmm. How do we track that? Start a journal.
Right.
Start telling somebody, like you're doing with Kat. Mark those words down. Mm-hmm. Bobby and I are not excessively talking, but we're checking in with each other in a very new dynamic. Mm-hmm.
Del Marie has said something here in the chat room, and people are just follow up to what Tara is saying. Del, who, by the way, when she is at work at Walmart, I know my sister Del, and she is one of those people who can find a nugget of light in a cave of darkness. And she inspires. And so she reassures her coworkers. She's saying she's one of the few elders that are left working who are well. And that, the younger workers say that she brings a sense of peace and calm to everybody. But she's adding, I think the biggest lesson for all of us is the equality for all. Whatever your job is important to sustain as humans here on Earth. We need to accept every worker, no matter what they do.
Exactly.
I love that. And yes.
Yes. There's dignity in that.
Yes.
And I think that is what's happening, that dignity is coming across.
Uh-huh.
Integrity is shifting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is. We might as well be saying this is the best of times and the worst of times.
Right.
And in time, this too shall pass. And, in a year, it's like, oh my God, remember? And oh my God, remember? And let's not forget 9/11. Let's not forget World War I, too. Let's not forget polio used to be, on Time Magazine, or what do you call it, Life Magazine,
Mm-hmm.
the picture of everybody in their tin cans trying to breathe. This is not the first time something has had to be dealt with, but it's the first time it's happened globally.
Mm-hmm.
So that says something to me that the universe is paying attention to us.
Mm-hmm. I think
somebody's looking at us going, what are you guys doing down there?
Yeah, exactly.
The same attitude that you and I have. Somebody's saying enough and somebody's screaming, no!
Right. And I know for a fact, at least for me, my ancestors have been so active in my dreams. Ancestors that I did not know existed because they're that far back in time. I had another one introduce herself to me this afternoon. I was sitting out on the lanai having a bite to eat and a cup of coffee. And, being somebody who sees, she walked in very clearly, and I'm your ancestor, and we're here, and we're with you, we're working with you at this time. So we've got the voices of our ancestors ringing in our ears. And we've got the new ones coming to the earth plane. I take a look at my grandson, Easton.
Oh, my goodness.
And I think, yes, he's something else, that little guy.
What
and
a face.
And I think to myself, what did you sign up for?
Exactly. Because it's his.
That's right.
And if I have ever seen a baby decide, I'm coming, get out of the way, whatever you think, you don't know. Whatever you figured out, drop it.
That's right.
And this little being
Mm-hmm.
is so full of life.
Yes.
And he is born in his terms.
Yes.
And that's that.
Well, and even looking at his name, the name Easton means the man who comes from the east. It's a Celtic name. And the man who comes from the east. And the east is the direction of new beginnings. It's the direction of Wambli, of the Wambli Oyate, the Eagle Nation. It's the direction of the sun.
Yep.
And I thought, what a beautiful, brilliant name for him to choose, because Elise and Matt knew straight away his name was going to be Easton.
Yeah.
And, yesterday I brought over some gifts that his grandma Dell sent, his Unchi Dell, and looking at him. And of course, we had to have a little fashion show, the things that you've sent and others have sent. We have these little fashion.
I had one day in shop.
Exactly. And Elise and I were talking, and I said, isn't it magnificent that this child is born into a family that loves him so? And he's globally.
Already.
And he's born into a family that he understands is family. Yeah. And I believe that this is part of the new consciousness.
I'm going to challenge you on that. You know this.
Yeah.
It's no belief. It is a fact.
Yeah.
We know it. You know it. He knows it. To watch that face, I'm watching because I'm fascinated with how his face is so different.
Yeah. And
his eyes. And I'm the future, and here I am, and we are.
Yes.
And it proves that there is life beyond anything and everything.
Yes. Yes.
And my conveyor belt is busy getting to wherever it's going to go. And I am grateful that I can look over my shoulder and see what's coming. And I can look in right next to me and see that there's alliance. And I can look in the future and know well, I'm going to go to where I've been before anyhow.
Yeah. Well,
and
mhm.
recycling is not bad.
Well, no, and his grandma Dell, Elise and her auntie Dell, they have a very special bond, those two. She's like kind of another
Yeah, they're
mother.
both naughty. They're
Well,
both
they are.
naughty.
Yeah, well, and that too. But Elise has always had this, and Dell is kind of like another mother for Elise, and you and Lily are kind of like her older sisters that she can tell things to that she
Absolutely.
ain't gonna want to tell me.
That's okay.
But Dell is like her other mama,
Yeah.
and they're a lot alike. And Del Marie, we're going to have the official ceremony next spring, but Del Marie received Easton's Indian name, his native name.
Oh
Right.
my
And so we will
God.
have formal ceremonies here next spring where that will be done in a good way, and all of that. But, Dell told me straight away he's coming in as an ancient one. We
Yes.
chop Kigli, we chop Kigli. So he comes from the stars, he returns from the stars. And I believe that in this still time, you and I both know what happens when there's a lot of stillness, Sandy. Whole lot of babies get born.
Yeah, things things get horny.
Whole lot of babies get born, and 9 months from now, we're going to have a whole lot of old ones returning
It will
to,
be the
right?
baby boom. It will be the next baby boom. Absolutely.
Stars born out of chaos
That's right.
are headed our way.
That's right.
That's right. And it's when we look at the overall weave, it's pretty astonishing what's going on right now, and the old ones returning and the old ones speaking to us, and even our own selves speaking to ourselves from our ancientness in the quiet.
Well, that to me is where the stillness is. It's like there's a whole new galaxy of beings that the veil is so thin. I'm belching up a storm here. Oh, excuse me. And what I'm seeing is not just the regulars or familiars. It's like a whole other shimmer of light.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it in the woods the other day when all of a sudden the glisten in the trees was different.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be because some of the pollution has lifted, and we're seeing what is without pollution or contamination,
Mm-hmm.
which is part of the brilliance of the phenomena of spirit connected to our everydayness and our sight being able to see it.
Yeah.
And that, I believe, that part of the pollution that has kept us from seeing spirit is literally being lifted.
I agree with that completely.
And it's happening. It's not
happening.
about to happen. It is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this has been predicted. And it's a time of great celebration, great agitation, great alignment, and it is a fracture. So all this is happening at the exact same time. It's as if the earth is being replanted and everything is breaking the shell and the new growth is here.
Mm-hmm.
And like anything that's growing, it comes up and it moves what is away so it can exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no bones about it.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that's got an attitude about it, go ahead and have it.
See how that works for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if you've seen a tree grow from a rock that got split because that one little green sprout came up, that's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening.
That's a beautiful visual for that, Sandy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I see it. That's what's happening to the earth. The earth's a rock, and the new sprout is up.
Well,
it's here.
You and I share one person that we absolutely adore in common, and that's Lori Bruno.
God bless her badass.
She is 80 years old, and she is rocking it as the hereditary high priestess in Salem, Massachusetts.
Absolutely.
And I adore this woman. You adore her. And I know Lily does as well.
And she adores us.
She does. Yes, she does.
I'm grateful that she considers that an embrace, really, truly.
Well, and lately, if you are friends with her on Facebook, she is putting out some wonderful things, not only from her perspective as an 80-year-old woman, but also her perspective as the hereditary high priestess.
Yeah, she's giving information.
You got it. As a ninth generation seer in her tradition as a strega. But talking about the fact that we got this.
Yeah.
The light has been called upon and the light is showing up. And it's the light of compassion, active compassion. It's the light of, and the light of, and the light of. We've got this.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's so beautiful is it's happening to everybody.
Yes.
And everybody is being exposed for who they really are.
Yes.
And it's an opportunity that is rare.
Mm-hmm.
We are at a rare moment. And it's interesting because Vietnam was like this when my generation had to crack something. It was explosive. Civil rights was like this when it had to crack something.
Mm-hmm.
The Native Americans, their wars were something when it had to be cracked. I mean, White Buffalo Woman came into view when something had to be cracked. And this is one of those moments. And the crack is what is coming found its way to the precipice, and it is present.
Mm-hmm.
It made its way.
Mm-hmm.
It is no longer coming. It's here.
Mm-hmm.
And be grateful, be awake, be aware, pay attention. If you're angry, it's okay. Don't take it out on anybody else. I'm frustrated. I don't know anybody that's not frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm agitated, but it doesn't last long. It's like, oh yeah, okay, but I'm aware of what I'm agitated at. And so be aware of what you're feeling, be aware of what you're saying. And most important, be kind to the fact that we have the opportunity to make this change.
Beautifully said, Sandy, and we're at the top of the hour, so that was a beautiful segue.
Good.
Yeah, and I'd like to begin by thanking everybody who joined us this evening and everybody checking out the archives, wherever you happen to be. We're in this together. We're all part of the Great Weave around the Great Mother, our Grandmother Earth, and we are connected to Grandfather Sky and being seen and unseen. And as Carl Franklin would say, we are all part of the ascension process. And, Chue, you'll love this. And I want to mention this also on behalf of our Tiblo Guy Dullknife. It kind of chokes me up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've been thinking of him a lot, so I know now why he's on the other side.
That's right. There was a huge win today for Standing Rock in the Environmental Policy Act. The federal court ordered the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to write a full environmental impact statement for the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Wow.
And some of our warriors, right, our brave ones, have transitioned to be on the other side to help us at this time. And I believe that Tiblo Guy is one of those.
I believe that was part of his dream.
Yes. And so Minnie Wichoni, Mother Earth's waterways are being recognized and honored, and those defending it are being honored now. It's a small step, but it's a beautiful step. And there are so many more to come, right? It's a beautiful time to be alive, huh?
Oh.
Yeah, keeked up po. That's right, Del. He is probably saying keeked up po from the other side.
Exactly. Exactly.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Sandy.
Good night, Dana. Good night, Todd. Good night, Minnie. Good night. Good night, everybody. Good night, Del. Good night. I'll see you all soon. Thanks for tonight. Bye.
Good night.